Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fly High Consulting Podcast. I'm your host, Alex.
And I'm Emma. We're so glad you've decided to join us today.
Whether this is your very first episode or you're joining us again, thank you for flying with us. Before we dive into today's discussion, let us tell you a little about who we are.
Fly High Consulting, or simply FH Consulting, was founded on a simple belief. The principles that make aviation one of the safest and highest performing industries in the world can also help professionals and organizations achieve excellence.
At FH Consulting, we explore how pilots think, make decisions, communicate, lead teams, manage risks, and continuously improve. Then we translate those lessons into practical strategies that professionals, managers, and business leaders can immediately apply in their own workplaces.
Whether you work in human resources, finance, operations, engineering, sales, customer service, or you're leading your own team, our mission is simple: to help you develop the mindset and habits that enable people to perform consistently, even under pressure.
Because today's workplace is becoming more complex every day. Technology is changing, businesses are evolving, customer expectations continue to grow, and the ability to make good decisions under pressure has never been more important.
That's why we believe success isn't just about working harder. It's about thinking differently, learning continuously, building better systems, and leading with confidence.
At FH Consulting, we don't just help organizations perform better.
We help professionals fly higher.
So, let's get started. Emma, let me ask you something. When people think about learning from other professions, they usually look at successful CEOs, famous entrepreneurs, elite athletes, or perhaps military leaders. But very few people think about pilots. Why do you think that is?
I think it's because most of us only see the final result. We board the airplane, we take off, we land safely, and we leave. We rarely think about everything that's happening behind the scenes to make that journey successful.
Exactly. Yet, aviation is consistently recognized as one of the safest and most reliable industries in the world. That didn't happen by accident. It's the result of decades of learning, continuous improvement, teamwork, and discipline.
And here's the exciting part. Many of those lessons have nothing to do with flying airplanes. They're actually lessons about leadership, decision-making, communication, risk management, teamwork, and professionalism.
In other words, the cockpit has a lot to teach the boardroom. So, throughout this podcast series, we'll explore what professionals can learn from pilots, and how these lessons can help us become better leaders, stronger teammates, and more effective professionals.
And today's lesson is one of the foundations of aviation. A principle that has transformed not only aviation, but can also transform the way organizations operate.
Today we're talking about why aviation is built on systems, not heroes. Emma, have you ever noticed how movies portray pilots?
Oh yes, the captain is usually some kind of superhero.
Exactly. Something goes wrong. Alarms start ringing, dramatic music plays, and somehow the captain saves the day in the last 30 seconds.
Meanwhile, everybody claps when the plane lands.
Exactly. But what's interesting is that real aviation doesn't actually rely on heroes.
That's true. In fact, aviation learned long ago that relying on heroes is dangerous.
Can you elaborate on that?
Sure, think about it. If safety depends entirely on one brilliant person, then what happens when that person is tired, distracted, under pressure, or simply makes a mistake? The aviation industry accepted something very important. Humans are incredibly capable, but humans are also fallible. Even the best pilots in the world forget things. Even the most experienced captains can become overloaded. Instead of pretending people never make mistakes, aviation designs systems that expect mistakes and help prevent them from becoming disasters.
That's a fascinating mindset. So instead of building a system around exceptional individuals, They built systems that help ordinary professionals consistently perform at an exceptional level.
Exactly. Because consistency beats brilliance. Every single time.
Can you give us a real example from the cockpit?
Absolutely. Imagine a captain who has flown for 25 years, thousands of flights, millions of passengers safely transported. Now here's something surprising. Before every flight, that captain still performs the exact same pre-flight checklist as a newly qualified first officer. Why? Not because they don't know what to do, but because memory is unreliable. The checklist isn't there to test experience. It's there to protect against human limitations. Even if the captain remembers 99 out of 100 items, missing just one critical item could have serious consequences. The checklist closes that gap.
So using a checklist isn't a sign of inexperience. It's actually a sign of professionalism.
Exactly. The best pilots don't trust their memory. They trust the system. Here's another example. Imagine the captain extends the landing gear. Instead of assuming everything is correct, the first officer independently checks the instrument panel and confirms 3 green. That means all 3 landing gears are safely locked. Why have 2 people verify something so simple? Because aviation follows an important principle. 1 person can make a mistake. 2 people following a standard process dramatically reduce the chance of error. This isn't about mistrust. It's about building safety into the way people work together.
And I think this is where many organizations can learn something important. Sometimes we celebrate the employee who knows everything, remembers everything, and solves every problem.
The person everyone calls whenever something goes wrong.
Exactly. We've all seen it. Someone says, "Don't worry, ask Sarah." Or, "Only David knows how that system works." Or, "We can't process payroll until John gets back." At first, it sounds impressive, but from a business perspective, that's actually a warning sign.
Imagine your finance manager resigns tomorrow. Suddenly, nobody knows how monthly reporting works. Files are stored only on one laptop. Critical decisions exist only in that person's head. The business slows down. People panic. Customers wait. That's not because the employee wasn't good. It's because the organization never built a system.
Exactly. Or think about sales. One top salesperson consistently exceeds targets. Everyone celebrates their results. But nobody documents how they qualify customers, how they conduct discovery meetings, or how they close deals. When that salesperson leaves, their performance leaves with them. A hero creates results. A system creates repeatable results.
This is why great leaders don't just ask, who is our best performer? They also ask, can everyone else achieve similar results using the same process? That's the difference between managing people and designing an organization.
One thing I love about aviation is this. When something goes wrong, investigators rarely ask, who made the mistake? Instead, they ask, what allowed the mistake to happen?
Exactly. Because punishment doesn't improve safety. Learning does. If 10 different people could make the same mistake, then the real problem isn't the person, it's the system. That's why aviation continuously improves procedures, training, technology, communication, and teamwork after every incident. The goal isn't to find someone to blame. The goal is to make the next flight even safer. Imagine if more organizations approached mistakes that way.
So perhaps the question for all of us is this. If your best employee didn't come to work tomorrow, would the business continue running smoothly? Or would everything stop?
Because resilient organizations aren't built on exceptional individuals. They're built on exceptional systems.
That's probably the biggest lesson from aviation. Heroes can save a day, but systems save organizations.
And that's why pilots don't depend on memory. They depend on preparation. They don't depend on luck. They depend on process. And they don't depend on heroes. They depend on systems.
So, what's the lesson for us as professionals? Great organizations are built on great systems, not great individuals. Pilots don't rely on memory, luck, or one extraordinary person to ensure a safe flight. They rely on standardized procedures, teamwork, and accountability. As leaders, ask yourself, if I were away tomorrow, would my team still perform effectively? If the answer is no, perhaps it's time to spend less energy becoming indispensable and more energy building systems that empower everyone to succeed.
Because sustainable success isn't about having one exceptional employee. It's about creating an environment where ordinary people can consistently achieve extraordinary results together.
Now that we've seen why aviation depends on strong systems, let's explore another habit that every great pilot shares.
Preparation.
Exactly. Pilots don't just trust the system, they prepare meticulously before every flight, whether it's their first flight or their 5,000th. And in our next lesson, we'll discover why preparation isn't just a task, it's a professional responsibility. Thank you for joining us on today's episode of the Fly High Consulting Podcast.
We hope today's conversation has given you a new perspective on how aviation principles can help you become a better professional and a stronger leader.
Until next time, keep learning.
Keep leading.
And as pilots often say,
aviate, navigate, communicate.
We'll see you on the next episode of the Fly High Consulting Podcast, where we'll continue discovering how the world of aviation can help all of us fly higher.